Is also VP of Partnership Management Group at SAP. Iqbal will moderate the session today and will introduce our panel.
Thank you, Robert. Excited to moderate this particular panel. I think it's pretty topical, both in terms of what's relevant to the open Silicon Valley membership, but also in terms of what's going on in the market up and down the food chain from large companies all the way down to small companies. Let me start by just introducing what the panel is about and introduce each of our individual panelists. I thank them all for taking the time to come to our panel this evening. All of them are exceptionally busy, so we really are very thankful that they took the time, and we expect excellent discussion on the topic. The panel is obviously focused, as most of you know, on startups and really starting new companies and growing them. And I think it's very relevant that in this instance we also talk about in the current environment. Now, the current environment is moving so fast that it will be interesting to hear the panelists' view on how the startup scene changes based on what we're seeing in the marketplace. But let me start by introducing the panelists, and then we'll jump right into the questions. What I will do is, after the introduction of the panelists, I will just ask the panelists a few questions. What I would like to do and encourage is audience participation. So I will open up the floor to questions from the audience, perhaps 15-20 minutes into our discussion, and hopefully we'll get some interesting questions that are very relevant to the audience, and I'm sure the panelists would love to address them. So let me get started by introducing our panelists first. Right next to me here is Chris Barden. Chris is the CEO and founder of a company called Aperio. I will actually spend not enough time talking about the various companies because the panelists will spend time in the context of the questions explaining a lot more of what they do. But Aperio is in the software as a service space and in fact has a hybrid model of services and products. Really started off more as a services company focused on implementations. Focused on implementation and custom development for software as a service around applications like software as a service. Talking about Chris's background, Chris is been in Silicon Valley and has deep experience in technology companies in Silicon Valley for a number of years. Prior to becoming the CEO and founder of Aperio, he was the CIO and senior vice president of business operations at Borland. Before that, he had held executive positions at Web Methods, and he was there the senior vice president of global customer services. And before that, he was also a managing director at WW Granger's consulting services division. So Chris has a long history of experience here in the Valley, particularly in the services end of the business, and now actively involved in running a company in one of the fastest spaces in technology in software as a service. So we welcome Chris. Right next to Chris is Venki Ganeshan. Venki is a managing director at Globespan Capital Partners. Venki is an experienced venture capitalist, has been with Globespan for a number of years, serves on the boards of several of Globespan's portfolio companies, including Agitar, Amabi, Exeros, Jaja, MarketLive, and several others, Odesk, some of these companies you may be familiar with. Venki is also an entrepreneur and helped.
You're just telling me that I don't have a real job, and I said that's true.
Well, you know what, we'll leave that to people's speculation after the panel. Venki also helped start a company while he was at Globespan, actually left Globespan for a year to work with a company, and eventually the company was sold to IBM. So Venki really has experience on both sides of the divide, and we really look forward to his comments related to institutional funding, the venture capital environment, as well as environment for small companies. Next to Venki, we have Iqbal Khan, who is the president and CTO for Alachi Soft. Iqbal has an extremely rich background in starting entrepreneurial and technology companies. His current company started off as Diatech back in 1996, 1997, as a primarily services company. What's very interesting and I think would be very relevant to the audience is that Iqbal's company has really grown in a self-financed model and has been around, of course, for this entire time period. So it will be very interesting to hear Iqbal's experience on how that model has played out and what are the challenges and opportunities of that particular model. In 2003, Diatech was transitioned into being a product company, which is when it was renamed. Alachi Soft itself is focused on the .NET space and is really in the enterprise applications company. Is focused on the enterprise applications industry. Prior to founding this company in the mid-90s, Iqbal also worked with an early stage company called Quality. So has a very, very long history here in the Valley of technology startups. We welcome the panel, and I again thank them for coming